Hello and welcome. We are live from New Delhi. You're watching DD India Live, India's voice to the world. I'm Abhishek Mahajan. Coming up in the next 30 minutes. US President Joe Biden acknowledges shaky debate performance but vows to defeat rival Donald Trump in November presidential election. Global powers clash at United Nations over North Korea. US confronts Russia over use of weapons from Pyongyang in its conflict against Ukraine. Polls close in Iran, snap presidential election. Unidentified gunman attack election vehicle, killed 2 security force personnel. And in sports, unbeaten India and South Africa come face to face in a bid for glory. Teams battle it out in T20 World Cup final at Kensington Oval on Saturday. News in detail now. Given no sign of dropping out of the race after a feeble presidential election debate, US President Joe Biden said on Friday that he is intended to defeat Republican rival Donald Trump in November presidential election. Acknowledging his poor performance against Trump and noting his age, Biden in his campaign rally in North Carolina showed confidence of defeating Donald Trump in the upcoming election.
Folks, let me close with this. I know I'm not a young man. State the obvious. Well, I know. I don't walk as easy as I used to. I don't speak as smoothly as I used to. I don't debate as well as I used to. But I know what I do know. I know how to tell the truth. I know right from wrong. And I know how to do this job. I know how to get things done. And I know, like millions of Americans know, when you get knocked down, you get back up.
And Biden's verbal stumbles and occasionally meandering responses in the debate heightened voter concerns that he might not be fit to serve another 4-year term and prompted some of his fellow Democrats to wonder whether they could replace him as the candidate for the November 5th US election. Biden blamed Trump for putting forward a series of falsehoods and deflected questions throughout the debate. Targeting US President and his contender Joe Biden in Virginia, Donald Trump told supporters that he had a big victory against a man looking to destroy the country. Taking a dig at Biden's age and a shaky debate performance, Trump said that the problem is not Biden's age, but his competence.
Despite the fact that crooked Joe Biden spent the entire week at Camp David resting, working, studying. He studied very hard. He studied so hard that he didn't know what the hell he was doing. He got the debate rules that he wanted. He got the date that he wanted. He got the network that he wanted. With the moderates he wanted. No amount of rest or rigging could help him defend his atrocious record.
And the UK is just days away from a general election that could see the Conservative Party out of power for the first time in 14 years. Polls suggest Labour Party leader Keir Starmer is likely to be the country's next Prime Minister after the July 4th vote. DD India's Oli Barrett reports from London.
All of the polls currently point in one direction ahead of the UK's election.
So it looks at the moment as if Labour will win and win easily.
That's not to say a win is guaranteed, but Rishi Sunak's Conservatives in power in one form or another for 14 years have struggled to eat into the Labour polling lead. So in the days after the election, Keir Starmer could be forming a government with a significant majority here at Parliament. That would bring huge opportunities for the centre-left party, but also huge challenges. After the COVID-19 pandemic, a war in Europe, a cost of living crisis, Britain's finances are creaking.
Well, the big issues facing the government that takes office on the 5th of July is that There are public service improvements needed in the UK, health service, railways, parts of the education system. Economic growth in the UK has been sluggish all the way back to 2008, in fact.
If Labour returns to power, the centre-left party's foreign policy is likely to include quite a lot of continuity with recent years. Relations with India will be a key focus.
We think so. I mean, look, India is the most exciting economic story in the world right now. We are in the middle of the Indian decade, at the start of the Indian century. And I think whoever's in power in the UK will recognise that and want to prioritise the relationship with India.
The Conservatives have also struggled with the rise of the right-wing Reform Party, which promises tougher action on immigration. Reform hopes to win the seaside seat of Clacton on the English south coast. Whatever happens there and elsewhere, it's already clear the makeup of the House of Commons will be very different. Ollie Barrett in London reporting for DD India.
And as counting of votes is underway in Iran's snap presidential election, initial results shows Masoud Pezeshkian in lead, followed by Saeed Jalili. Earlier, the polling was extended 3 times for a total of 6 hours. Iranians voted for a new president on Friday following the death of Ibrahim Raisi in a helicopter crash last month, choosing from a tightly controlled group of 4 candidates loyal to the supreme leader at a time of growing public frustration and Western pressure. While some insiders predicted a turnout around 50%, polling stations in Tehran and some other cities were not crowded. If no candidate wins at least 50% plus 1 vote from all ballots cast, including blank votes, a runoff between the top 2 candidates will be held on the first Friday after the result is declared. Meanwhile, 2 security force members were killed in an attack by unidentified gunmen in Iran. The gunmen were targeting a vehicle carrying election boxes in Iran's Sistan-Balochistan province. The United States, Britain and France confronted Russia at the United Nations Security Council on Friday over violating an arms embargo on North Korea by using missiles and weapons from Pyongyang in its conflict against Ukraine. Take a listen.
In the strongest possible terms, those unlawful transfers which have significantly contributed to Russia's ability to conduct its war against Ukraine. The transfer of ballistic missiles, along with munitions and related materiel from the DPRK to Russia, violates multiple Security Council resolutions.
Russia's UN ambassador Vasily Nebenzia rejected the accusations, calling it completely false. Meanwhile, North Korea's UN ambassador Song Kim asserted that Russia and North Korea relations are peace-loving and defensive in nature, and they do not target a third party.
The DPRK-Russia relations are completely of peace-loving and defensive nature, as they do not target the third party, but promote progress and well-being of the people of the 2 countries. Therefore, there is no reason whatsoever to be concerned about development of their bilateral relation unless they have intention to undertake military invasion of the DPRK and Russian Federation.
And the council meeting came after Russian President Vladimir Putin signed a pact last week with North Korean leader Kim Jong-un, agreeing to provide military assistance if either faces armed aggression. And at least 1 person died and 6 others were injured in a Russian missile strike in the central Ukrainian city of Dnipro on Friday. Video footage released by the State Emergency Service showed a rescue team struggling to free a person trapped in a car at the foot of the tower block. Meanwhile, Russia's defense ministry claimed to have taken control of the settlement of Rozdolivka in eastern Ukraine. Russia said that its southern military grouping had taken favorable positions after pushing Ukrainian forces out of the settlement. However, Ukraine's military said heavy fighting was raging in areas around the settlement. And Russian President Vladimir Putin has said that his country would resume production of short and intermediate nuclear-capable missile as a response to the United States deployment of such weapons in both Europe and Asia. Putin made the remarks at a meeting of Russia's Security Council on Friday. The United States had withdrawn from the landmark 1987 Intermediate Range Nuclear Forces Treaty with Russia in 2019 after saying that Moscow was violating the accord. Kremlin, however, has denied such accusations. Russia then imposed a ban on its own development of missiles previously banned by the INF Treaty.
We need to start manufacturing these strike systems and then, based on the actual situation, make decisions about where, if necessary to ensure our safety, to place them.
Now, tensions between Israel and Lebanon escalated after rockets launched from Lebanon hit an Israeli border town on Friday. Israeli warplanes also fired locations in Lebanon in response to recent attacks. Israel says fire from Lebanon has killed 18 soldiers and 10 civilians so far. Though the current unrest between Israel and Iran is still relatively contained, it marks their worst confrontation in 18 years with widespread damage to buildings and farmland in South Lebanon and northern Israel. Meanwhile, the Israeli army released footage on Friday showing aerial strikes and tanks advancing into Gaza's Shejaya neighborhood, sparking intense clashes with Hamas operatives. The Israeli military described the operation as a targeted raid, stating that they hit numerous Hamas military sites in the area. Now, a tragic accident was reported in Long Island, New York. On Friday, at least 4 people were killed after a vehicle smashed into a nail salon in Long Island. Another 9 people were also injured in the accident. At least 150 firefighters and other officers are at the scene of the crash, investigating the cause of the crash. Now, aid has started to pour in the quake-stricken Peru on Friday. Planes loaded with aid packages arrived in southern coastal region of Arequipa to support citizens after the 7.0 magnitude of earthquake in Peru. Reportedly, a total of 8 people have been injured. Following the earthquake, Arequipa was hit by 4 aftershocks of 4 to 4.6 magnitude, causing some landslides on local roads. Prime Minister Gustavo Adriansen has also visited the town of Yucca to evaluate the scale of the damage. Now, amidst the unrest in Haiti, Kenyan police are patrolling the streets of Port-au-Prince in full gear and using armoured vehicles on Friday. Residents expressed cautious hope after a first contingent of Kenyan police officers arrived in the Caribbean country as part of a long-delayed mission to help police fight armed gangs. A few hundred Kenyan police officers landed in Haiti this week to lead a United Nations ratified mission set to number over 2,500, though it remains unclear when the remaining forces could arrive. And now let's take a look at other stories making news around the world. Japan's Emperor Naruhito and Empress Masako planted a cherry tree at Merton College during their trip to Oxford. The Emperor and Empress are in the United Kingdom to celebrate the long ties between the two royal families and to demonstrate the deep relationship between the two countries, as per the officials. Stevie Nicks, Kylie Minogue and Robbie Williams are among the singers set to perform at this year's British Summer Time Festival, which opened in London's Hyde Park. Other performers include Australian pop star Kylie Minogue, 5-time Grammy winner Shania Twain, British singer Robbie Williams, country musician Morgan Wallen and American rock artist Stevie Nicks. Residents of the state of Mexico got together to clean up streets after a torrent of mud from a swollen river swept by homes amid intense rains. The area of Chalco was one of the hardest hit by the bad weather when the Maravillas River burst its banks, covering about 8 streets with sludge, an official from the local government said. Firefighters in Arizona continue to battle the so-called Boulder View fire, which has consumed 3,200 acres near Sedona, triggering local evacuations. The fire has been fueled by high winds and dry conditions. Authorities said the fire was determined to have been caused by people and is under investigation. All right, we'll slip in a very short break, but still to come on this edition of DD India Live. Italian companies trying to grab a slice of India's expanding IT sector. The 52-day annual Amarnath Yatra to South Kashmir Himalayas in Jammu and Kashmir commenced with the arrival of first batch of the pilgrims. And the Euros round of 16 kicks off today, defending champion Italy to face Switzerland in the opening encounter.
Complex issues, hidden agendas, twists and turns, strategic games. We think all dots are linked. We just need to connect them. Join me every week as I connect the dots to unravel hidden designs in statecraft, mysteries, and decode issues that matter to you. Watch Connecting the Dots with me at these times on DD India.
Welcome back. You're watching DD India Live. I'm Abhishek Mahajan. After a meeting on the sidelines of the G7 summit earlier this month, Italian and Indian Prime Ministers pledged to strengthen cooperation in cyber and digital fields. Overall trade between the two countries exceeded $14 billion in 2023, up from just under $10 billion before the coronavirus pandemic. DD India's Giles Gibson looks at how Italian companies are now trying to grab a slice of India's expanding IT sector.
Just up the coast from the venue of this year's G7 is the headquarters of ex-Privia Group, an Italian IT firm that recently opened an office in Pune in Maharashtra state.
India is a competitive market and in recent years has been growing, thanks to large contributions from local governments and significant investments being made in the manufacturing and IT sectors. India's ICT sector has seen the biggest expansion in the global market in recent years.
The company has been active in China for more than a decade, but is now focusing its expansion efforts on the Indian market. Accountancy firm KPMG says the country is on the brink of becoming a global digital powerhouse. It's a switch that's also taking place at the top levels of government. Italian Prime Minister Giorgia Meloni has pulled her country out of China's Belt and Road Initiative after signing a strategic partnership with India last year. Analysts, though, say strengthening ties with India was also a priority for Meloni's predecessor.
I'm referring, for instance, to the Draghi government. And the Draghi government, Mario Draghi was pretty active as well during the G20 meetings that, in which he was trying to increase the relations with India by having India on board on different issues that are relevant at the international level.
As Rome and New Delhi get closer together, though, the Chinese market remains vital for many Italian exporters. Luxury brands such as Gucci and Prada have taken advantage of rapid growth in China over the last few decades, although the curve is starting to flatten off. Just like the IT sector, the rising demand for luxury goods amongst India's expanding middle class represents a fresh opportunity for Italian brands.
For now, Italian trade policy is really a balancing act. Just after she met with the Indian Prime Minister on the sidelines of the G7 summit, Giorgia Meloni also announced that she'll be travelling to Beijing for an official visit in the coming weeks. Giles Gibson in Rome reporting for DD India.
And the Indian Parliament passed 3 new criminal laws, the Bharatiya Nyaya Sanhita, the Bharatiya Nagrik Suraksha Sanhita and the Bharatiya Sakshya Adhiniyam to replace the Indian Penal Code 1860, the Criminal Procedure Code 1973 and the Indian Evidence Act 1872. These are soon to be implemented. There are some myths related to these. DD India busts them for you.
The newly enacted laws Bharatiya Nyaya Sanhita, Bharatiya Nagrik Suraksha Sanhita and Bharatiya Sakshya Act, which will completely overhaul the criminal justice system in the country, will come into effect from July 1st this year. The 3 laws got the Parliament's approval on December 21st last year and President Draupadi Murmu gave her assent on December 25th. the laws will replace the colonial era Indian Penal Code, the Code of Criminal Procedure, and the Indian Evidence Act of 1872, respectively. The three legislations aim at completely overhauling the criminal justice system in the country by giving definitions of various offences and their punishments. However, the provision related to the cases of hit and run by vehicle drivers will not be implemented immediately. There are several myths related to these three laws. Myth says sedition is gone but appears as Deshdroh in Bharatiya Nyaya Sanhita 2023. However, the truth is that the colonial legacy related to the sedition section in the IPC has been removed in the Bharatiya Nyaya Sanhita 2023. Bharatiya Nyaya Sanhita 2023 brings clarity by explicitly defining Deshdroh as actions endangering the sovereignty, unity and integrity of India. Bharatiya Nyaya Sanhita 2023, Section 152 goes beyond criminalizing expressions causing hatred towards the government. It punishes acts such as armed rebellion, subversive activities and separatist activities.
India's National Testing Agency released fresh dates for cancelled and postponed examinations on Friday. The UGC NET exams will now be held from August 21st to September 4th. The exams will be conducted in a computer-based test mode this year. The University Grants Commission National Eligibility Test was cancelled after the Education Ministry received inputs that the integrity of the exam was compromised. Both these exams are crucial for candidates seeking lectureships and research fellowships in Indian universities and research institutions. Now, the 52-day annual Amarnath Yatra to South Kashmir Himalayas in Jammu and Kashmir commenced with the arrival of first batch of pilgrims. Amid blowing of conch shells and holy chants, the pilgrims left for the two base camps in Kashmir in a cavalcade of 231 vehicles escorted by the CRPF personnel. The 52-day pilgrimage begins from the twin tracks, the traditional 48-kilometer Nunwan Pahalgam route in Anantnag and 14 kilometers Baltal route in Gandarbal and will conclude on August 19. And the authorities have significantly bolstered security measures along the Jammu-Srinagar National Highway to guarantee the smooth and safe passage of pilgrims for Amarnath Yatra. Sports now. India will hope to end their title drought while South Africa are seeking to bury their chokers tag at Kensington Oval on Saturday when the tournament's two unbeaten sides clash in 2020 World Cup final. Skipper Rohit Sharma will hope India, who lost in the finals of the World Test Championship and the 50 overs home World Cup last year, will make it third time lucky. India ended England's title defence in Guyana to make the third consecutive final of a global event across all formats. Both Rohit Sharma and stalwart Virat Kohli are playing what could be their last T20 World Cup, and winning the trophy would be a perfect farewell for them. Meanwhile, South Africa look to shed their baggage from having reached their first World Cup final in any format after 7 semi-final heartbreaks. Their pace attack has been on the money, bailing them out whenever their batters failed. The blemish-free campaigns by both the teams and their comprehensive victories in the semi-finals have no doubt that the tournament's best two sides have made the final in Bridgetown. And India women's cricket team opener Shefali Verma scripted history when she slammed quickest double ton in one-off test against South Africa in Chennai on Friday. Shefali got to the coveted 200-run mark in just 196 deliveries, overtaking Australia's Annabel Sutherland's record, who got to the double ton in 248 deliveries. Shefali opened the innings alongside Smriti Mandhana. The pair put up a 292-run stand for the first wicket before Mandhana was dismissed for 149. India were 525 for the loss of 4 wickets at the close of play. Football now. Switzerland will take on defending champions Italy in the opening match of Euro round of 16 in Berlin on Saturday. Switzerland impressed in the pool stages with their usual efficiency, while defending champions Italy stumbled into last 16, though both teams were runners-up in their respective pools. 5 of the last 6 meetings between the sides have finished in draws, and Switzerland's last win over Italy was in 1993. In the second match, host Germany will face Denmark in Dortmund. The host topped Group A with 7 points, while Denmark advanced in Group C despite drawing all 3 games. Germany have scored more goals, 8 in total, had more possession and the best passing accuracy than any side. They have extended their unbeaten run to 7 games. Denmark will be underdogs. And India's Minister for Youth Affairs and Sports, Mansukh Mandavia, has welcomed the Indian Olympic Association's move to have yoga included in the Asian Games program. Mandavia said, and I quote him, "It is only fair that in keeping with its wide popularity, yoga becomes a competitive sport and is in the Asian Games." Unquote. IOA President P.T. Usha has written to Olympic Council of Asia to consider the proposal of including yoga as a sport in the Asian Games. Government of India, though, through its different initiatives, has promoted yoga as a competitive sport and it being an art of healthy living. Unfreezing temperatures froze the sea in Chile's southernmost Magallanes and Antarctica region. Videos shot by Witness showed frozen waves against the dramatic backdrop of sunrise and sunset. Well, that's all for this edition of DD India Live, but do let us know your thoughts on the news of the day. For those on the go, you can get all the latest news and updates from India and across the world on DD India mobile application. The app is available on both Android and iOS platforms. Scan the QR code on the screen to download now. We'll be back with more news as it breaks here on DD India. I'm Abhishek. From all of us here in Delhi, thanks for watching DD India Live.